I never thought I would get a call from a private investigator. Not in a million years did I imagine my own brother Jason would hire someone to dig into my life. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. "Your brother wanted proof of your failures," he said. But I found something very different. My heart raced as memories of growing up in Jason's shadow flooded back. The golden child versus the disappointment. Now he wanted ammunition. The detective requested to meet. Before I continue this wild story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe. If family betrayal stories keep you on the edge of your seat, I grew up in a middle-class family in Boston where both my parents worked in finance. They were smart, driven people who valued success and achievement above all else. From the moment Jason was born 4 years before me, he was destined to be the family star. I can still picture the wall of trophies that lined our hallway, all with his name engraved in gold. Jason excelled at everything he touched. He was class president, 3 years running captain of the debate team, and graduated top of his class. His SAT scores were nearly perfect, something my parents mentioned at every family gathering well into my adulthood. While I was still struggling with basic algebra, he was winning state math competitions. Teachers would see my last name on their roster, and their eyes would light up only to dim slightly when they realized I was the other brother. When Jason got accepted to Harvard with a full scholarship, my parents threw the biggest party our neighborhood had ever seen. They invited everyone. Family, friends, distant relatives, even our dentist. The entire evening was a celebration of Jason's brilliance, his dedication, his exceptional future. I spent most of that party refilling chip bowls and collecting empty cups, watching my parents beam with pride. By contrast, my graduation from high school warranted a quiet dinner at our local Italian restaurant. I had good grades, A's and B's, but they weren't Harvard material. My interests lay in computers and digital art, things my father dismissed as playing around. When I announced I was attending State University to study computer science, my mother sighed and said, "Well, at least it is a practical field." The disappointment was palpable. College was supposed to be my fresh start, a place where I could finally escape Jason's shadow. But even there, his legacy found me. During my sophomore year, Jason landed a prestigious internship at a top investment firm. The day of my final exams, all my parents could talk about on the phone was how he was already being groomed for management. When I made the dean's list that semester, my achievement was acknowledged with a brief, "That is nice, honey," before the conversation turned back to Jason's exploits. My graduation day should have been special. I had worked hard, developed valuable skills, and secured a decent entry-level job at a tech company. But the celebration was overshadowed when Jason called during the ceremony to announce his promotion. By the time I walked across the stage, my parents were already discussing flight options to attend his promotion party. The first real breaking point came during a family dinner 6 months after graduation. I had been working on an idea for a data security platform, something I was genuinely excited about. I had done market research, developed preliminary code, even created mock-ups of the interface. This was my chance to show them I had vision, ambition. I waited until dessert to share my plans. "I have been thinking about starting my own business." I began pulling up notes on my phone. "There is a real gap in the market for user-friendly data security solutions for small businesses." Before I could elaborate, Jason laughed. Not just a chuckle, but a full-blown head-thrown-back laugh. "A startup. In this economy. With your experience." He turned to our parents. "He is not serious, right?" My father frowned, setting down his fork. "Son, perhaps you should get a few more years of experience first. Build some credentials." "Jason was working on Wall Street at your age," my mother added helpfully. "There is no rush to take risks when you are just establishing yourself." "It is not even a realistic idea," Jason continued, scrolling through his phone with disinterest. "The security market is saturated. You would need millions in startup capital and connections you simply do not have." I sat there, my enthusiasm evaporating as my family systematically dismantled my dream before I could even fully share it. What hurt most was not their skepticism. That would have been understandable. But their immediate dismissal, their assumption that if I was pursuing it, it could not possibly have merit. That night, lying in my childhood bedroom, surrounded by participation trophies and second-place ribbons, I made a decision. I would leave Boston. I would pursue my idea, and I would do it far from the shadow of my golden brother. Seattle welcomed me with its perpetual rain and booming tech scene. It felt like a city built for fresh starts where nobody knew me as Jason's little brother. I found a tiny apartment in Capitol Hill, basically a glorified closet with a kitchenette, but it was mine. The rent consumed nearly half my income from the entry-level job. I landed at a small software company, but I was determined to make it work. Every evening after my day job, I returned to my apartment and worked on my security platform idea. Weekends disappeared into code and market research. I survived on ramen and coffee, putting every spare dollar into savings for my eventual business launch. When friends invited me out, I calculated the cost of a night out against how many more days I could fund development if I stayed in. Most nights I stayed in. Meanwhile, Jason's successes continued to echo from the East Coast. My mother's weekly calls were primarily updates on his latest achievements. Jason just closed a 7-figure deal, she would gush. His picture was in the company newsletter. Or, Jason is dating a doctor now. Such a lovely girl from a good family. Each conversation inevitably turned to concerned questions about my life choices. Are you still at that small company? Have you thought about applying to graduate school? Your father knows someone at Microsoft. Should he put in a word? The Thanksgiving after my move was particularly brutal. I flew home using money I could not really spare, hoping that some distance had softened their perspective. It hadn't. Throughout dinner, relatives peppered me with questions about when I would get a real career, while Jason held court describing his new condo overlooking the harbor. The final straw came when my father cornered me in the kitchen. I have been talking with Bill Johnson. You remember my old college roommate? His firm is expanding their IT department. Good salary, benefits, stability. I told him you would send your resume over. Dad, I have a job. And I am working on my own project. He sighed, patting my shoulder with what felt like pity. Son, there is no shame in admitting when something is not working out. Not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur. That takes a special kind of drive like your brother has. I returned to Seattle more determined than ever, but also more isolated from my family. I reduced the calls home to once a month, then once every few months. I worked harder, slept less, and poured everything into my vision. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. At a local tech meetup, I met Yolanda, a brilliant security engineer who saw potential in my concept. She had experience I lacked and perspectives I needed. After several coffee meetings to discuss ideas, she agreed to become my business partner. We worked nights and weekends refining the platform while maintaining our day jobs. We pitched to 3 different investors. 3 times we were rejected. Too niche. Market too competitive. Team too inexperienced. Each rejection stung, but we kept refining, kept building. My savings dwindled to a dangerous level. I picked up weekend shifts at a local electronics store, then evening work doing freelance coding. Some nights I slept only 3 hours before starting again. The situation grew even more challenging when Yolanda developed carpal tunnel syndrome from the constant coding. She needed surgery, but had limited insurance coverage. Without hesitation, I put the remaining balance on my credit card. We were partners now in it together. While she recovered, I took on her coding tasks in addition to my own working through nights fueled by energy drinks and determination. Just when things looked most dire, we connected with a small angel investor who actually understood our vision. Marcus Kingston had built and sold 2 security companies and immediately grasped what made our approach different. His investment was modest by Silicon Valley standards, but to us, it was life-saving. We quit our day jobs and went all in on what we now called YTech Solutions, named in honor of Yolanda's contribution. We operated in stealth mode, deliberately keeping a low profile. No flashy office, no press releases, no social media presence. Instead, we focused on building relationships with a small roster of clients who valued privacy and security as much as we did. Word of mouth brought us more business than we could handle. 6 months in, we were profitable. At 12 months, we had a waiting list. Throughout this period of quiet success, my relationship with my family deteriorated further. During one rare call home, Jason overheard my mother talking to me and grabbed the phone. "How is life in the big, bad tech world?" he mocked. "Still working in that little office in Seattle. Mom and Dad are worried about you, you know. They think you are wasting your potential." After that call, I stopped answering altogether. I sent birthday cards and holiday greetings but deflected questions about my work. It was easier to let them think I was struggling than to constantly defend myself. Besides, I had found a new family in my small but growing company. People who valued my vision and shared my passion. It started with small things. A black sedan parked across from our office 3 days in a row. A man in a gray suit, sitting 2 tables away at our regular lunch spot, never ordering more than coffee. Yolanda noticed it first. She had always been more observant than me. "That guy has been following us," she whispered one afternoon, discreetly pointing out a middle-aged man pretending to read a newspaper. "He was outside your apartment building yesterday morning, too." Initially, I dismissed her concerns. We worked in security, after all. It made us naturally paranoid. But then Yolanda showed me photos she had taken on her phone, the same man in different locations, always within sight of us. She had even captured his license plate, and the moment he photographed us through a restaurant window during a client meeting. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. "My name is Martin Reeves," the voice said calmly. "I am a private investigator hired by Jason Brooks to investigate you. I believe we should talk." My blood ran cold. "My brother hired you." "Why?" "He asked me to compile evidence of your failures in Seattle. He wanted documentation of your struggling business, your financial difficulties, perhaps even signs of desperation. He plans to present this information to your parents." I gripped the phone tighter. "And what exactly did you find?" There was a pause. "That is what I would like to discuss in person. I do not typically do this, but I believe you should know what your brother is planning. Could we meet tomorrow?" We arranged to meet at a neutral coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, claimed a corner table with a view of the door, and waited. Martin was exactly on time. A trim, serious-looking man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and observant eyes. He ordered a black coffee and sat across from me without ceremony. "I have been a private investigator for 22 years, he began, placing a folder on the table between us. "In that time, I have done many family investigations, cheating spouses, rebellious teenagers, background checks for inheritances. But this is a first for me." He opened the folder and turned it toward me. Inside were photographs of our office building, copies of business registrations, and most shockingly, a comprehensive client list and estimated company valuation. "Your company, Mr. Brooks, is worth approximately $7 million based on current contracts and projected growth. You have a waiting list of Fortune 500 clients. Your security protocols have been praised in industry publications, albeit with your company maintaining a deliberately low profile." I stared at him, unable to process that this stranger knew so much about the business I had worked so hard to build. "Why are you showing me this?" Martin leaned back in his chair. "Because your brother did not hire me to find your success. He hired me to document your failure. He specifically instructed me to focus on negative information. Missed rent payments, failed business attempts, dead-end jobs. When I told him I needed more time because my preliminary findings were inconclusive, he became agitated. But why would he do this? Based on my conversation with him, I believe his own business ventures are struggling. He mentioned needing to secure family investment. I suspect he wants to present your failure as a cautionary tale to ensure your parents invest with him instead." I sat in stunned silence, absorbing the magnitude of this betrayal. My own brother had hired someone to document my lowest moments, to weaponize my struggles against me. The pain of this realization was quickly replaced by something else: resolve. "What happens now?" I asked. Martin closed the folder. "Officially, I will provide my client with the information he paid for. Unofficially, I believe you deserve to know the truth. And perhaps an opportunity to control how your story is told to your family." A plan began forming in my mind. Would you be willing to help me with something, Mr. Reeves? For the first time, he smiled slightly. I believe I might. Professional ethics only extend so far when the client's intentions are clearly malicious. I called my parents that evening for the first time in months. My mother answered surprise, evident in her voice. We exchanged pleasantries, careful and formal after so much distance. When I invited them to visit Seattle to see my life there, she hesitated. Your father and I have been concerned, honey. Jason said you might be going through a rough time. All the more reason to visit, I replied, keeping my tone light. In fact, why not make it a family trip? Jason should come too. After some discussion, they agreed. 1 week later, they would all fly out to Seattle. I had 7 days to prepare. Yolanda and I worked furiously preparing documentation of our company's success while maintaining our client obligations. Martin provided insights into exactly what information Jason had requested and what narrative he planned to present. Together, we crafted a response that would expose the truth in the most undeniable way possible. The evening of their arrival, I invited my family to dinner at our office. I deliberately chose not to meet them at their hotel or take them to a restaurant. I wanted them to see my reality on my terms. Our office was intentionally understated, a converted warehouse space with exposed brick and simple furnishings. No flashy signage, no ostentatious displays of success. Just a secure, functional workspace where serious work happened. I watched their faces as they entered. My mother's forced smile, my father's evaluating gaze, and Jason's barely concealed smirk. So this is it, huh? Jason gestured around dismissively. Your big Seattle adventure, I nodded, offering them seats at our conference table where I had arranged a simple catered meal. This is where we work. Yes, we, my father, raised an eyebrow. My business partner is joining us shortly. I explained, pouring water for everyone. The conversation was strained, filled with loaded questions about finances and thinly veiled suggestions about other opportunities I might consider. Jason grew increasingly confident as the meal progressed, clearly believing his plan was working. My parents saw exactly what they expected to see, their less successful son, in a modest office, presumably struggling. Finally, Jason made his move. Mom, Dad, there is something you should know about little brother's situation here. He pulled out his phone. I was worried about him, so I had someone look into things. Professional assessment, totally unbiased. You had someone investigate your brother. My mother looked shocked. Jason waved away her concern. Just to get the facts. I hired a private investigator to assess his business situation. I thought you would want to know the truth before making any decisions about helping him out. And what truth is that, Jason? The new voice came from the doorway where Yolanda stood, arms crossed. She stepped into the room with the confident stride of someone entirely comfortable in their authority. I am Yolanda Hayes, co-founder and Chief Security Officer of YTech Solutions. She extended her hand to my stunned parents. I apologize for being late. I was finalizing a contract with our newest client. They are rather particular about their security protocols. Jason's face flickered with uncertainty for the first time. Where is this investigator of yours? Shouldn't he be presenting his findings? I am right here, Mr. Brooks. Martin stepped into the room, carrying a leather portfolio. Though I believe my findings may not be what you anticipated, what followed was the most satisfying 30 minutes of my life. Martin methodically presented the true status of YTech Solutions, our client roster, our financial statements, our industry recognition, and our current valuation. With each revelation, my parents' expressions shifted from confusion to disbelief to dawning pride. Jason's face moved through a different progression: confusion, disbelief, and finally, anger. This is ridiculous, he sputtered when Martin finished. You were supposed to find evidence of his failures, not create some fantasy success story. I paid you to show how he is wasting his potential out here. The room fell silent. My mother's hand covered her mouth. My father stared at Jason, as if seeing him for the first time. You specifically asked me to find evidence of failure, Martin stated calmly. When I discovered the opposite, I had a professional obligation to report the truth, not the narrative you preferred. Jason stood abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor. "You betrayed me," he hissed at Martin before turning to glare at me, "and you set this up to humiliate me." Typical. Always playing the victim. "No, Jason," I said quietly. "I just wanted the truth to come out. All of it." With a final venomous look, he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The silence he left behind was deafening. My father was the first to speak after Jason left. "I do not know what to say." His voice was uncharacteristically small. "All this time we thought." He gestured helplessly around the office at the evidence of my success. "You thought I was failing because I was not following the path you approved of," I finished for him. "Because success only counts if it looks like what you expect it to." My mother wiped away tears. "We never meant to make you feel less important than your brother. We just wanted what was best for you. By never believing in me. By dismissing my ideas without even giving them a chance." The conversation that followed was painful, but necessary. For the first time, I told them honestly how it felt growing up as the other son. The constant comparisons, the different standards, the assumption of mediocrity. My father tried to defend their parenting several times before finally falling silent, listening with growing comprehension. "We failed you," he admitted finally. "We were so focused on celebrating Jason's achievements that we never learned to see yours." It was the beginning of healing, not the completion of it. Over the next few months, my parents made efforts to understand my world. They asked questions about my business, expressed genuine interest in my approach to security, and for the first time, spoke about my accomplishments to family friends, with the same pride they had always reserved for Jason. With the truth now in the open, Yolanda and I decided to bring YTech Solutions out of the shadows. We launched a proper website, accepted speaking engagements at industry conferences, and expanded our team. Yolanda took on the role of Chief Operations Officer, her talent for organization, balancing my technical focus. Our client list grew, and so did our impact on the industry. For 3 months, we heard nothing from Jason. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, he appeared at our office without warning. He looked different, humbled, the polished veneer cracked. Over coffee, he explained that his investment firm had collapsed under allegations of mismanagement. His reputation in Boston financial circles was in tatters. "I came to apologize," he said stiffly, staring into his cup rather than meeting my eyes. "What I did was unforgivable." "Why did you do it?" I needed to understand. My company was failing. I needed a substantial investment to keep it afloat. And I knew Mom and Dad would give it to me if they believed I was the only successful son. He looked up, finally. "I have been jealous of you." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Jealous? Of me? You were the golden child." I was trapped by their expectations. One slip, one mistake, and I felt their disappointment like a physical weight. "You escaped. You built something on your own terms, without their approval or help." I never had that courage. It was a perspective I had never considered. That the golden cage of their approval had its own kind of prison bars. We talked for hours that day, beginning the slow process of rebuilding a relationship based on truth rather than competition. I offered Jason a job at YTech, not out of pity, but because his financial background filled a gap in our expertise. He started in a junior role, earning trust rather than assuming it, and gradually became an integral part of our growing company. The healing with my parents continued too, though it came with clear boundaries. I no longer sought their approval, but I welcomed their support when offered genuinely. They learned to appreciate my path, rather than comparing it to their expectations. At Thanksgiving that year, my mother proudly told relatives about YTech's newest security innovation without once mentioning Harvard or comparing my achievements to anyone else's. The greatest lesson I learned through all of this was not about business success or family dynamics, though those insights were valuable. It was about the quiet power of building something true to your own vision regardless of whether others can see its value yet. Success defined by others is fragile, dependent on their changing opinions. Success defined by your own standards endures. I also learned the liberating truth about forgiveness. That it is not a gift you give to others, but a burden you release from yourself. Forgiving my family did not mean forgetting the pain or allowing the same patterns to continue. It meant refusing to carry the weight of resentment while I built my new life. Today, Y-Tech Solutions employs 37 people and serves clients across 3 continents. Yolanda and I remain equal partners, our complementary strengths, the foundation of our success. Jason heads our finance department, having found unexpected fulfillment in helping build something rather than just profiting from it. My parents visit quarterly, genuinely interested in our latest projects. What would your family think if they could see your true success? Have you ever had someone underestimate you only to prove them wrong in the most satisfying way? Share your story in the comments below. If this tale of family rivalry and sweet vindication resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life stories of triumph over adversity. Remember, sometimes the greatest success is the one no one sees coming. Thank you for listening, and may you find the courage to build your own path even when others cannot yet see where it leads.